Hello and welcome to All Shorts. Well, I thought this might be a bit of fun, yeah. I want to talk about food prices and some comparisons between Canada, Mexico, the United States, even the UK and the European Union. And I will be using eggs. I will. Well, you see, the cost of food is dramatically increasing. I've been watching a few food videos in the United States of demonstrating the increase in the price of food and how it's affecting ordinary folk just trying to get by. Yes, many of them voted for Donald Trump. Yes, they thought the food prices were going to come down, but, well, unfortunately, they were grifted. That they were. We warned you that we did. But you didn't listen. No, MAGA didn't listen. No. And I live in rural France, okay? Now there is obviously farming, because it's rural, alright? There's a lot of beef farming here. The Limousin cow, for instance. And the farmers here, what they do is, you see, if they ain't happy, they'll dump a load of shit. That they will. At Lidl's or somewhere like that, because they're importing food from abroad, or, you know, they do have a bit of, how to put it, they have a bit of grief occasionally, that they do. So, what I'm going to talk about is the cost of a food, yeah, and I have to admit, it is pretty pricey here. Oh, it's my neighbour! Hello, neighbour! You see, well, Food price index. Let's just look at the comparison there first. Such as, in the United States, currently the food price index is around 71.5. Now Canada, this reflects the percentages, yeah, is 65.35. So Canada's food prices are less than the United States. I think that's done a bit of an about turn over the last few years. It's not just under Donald Trump, but since the tariffs are coming in, you're going to be seeing some major increases in the cost of food in the United States. And it should really concern absolutely everybody. Now, there will be a few tractors coming past. Like I warned you, I'm in rural France, and they're doing a bit of terraforming, that they are. Yes, they're digging shitloads of soil. Yeah, they're scabbing the land on one of the fields behind my property and shifting it over there. And an empty trailer is now coming our way over there. I don't know if you can see it. You might be able to see it. There you go. Here he comes. Oh, yellow trailer. Oh, it's a Fendt tractor, that one is. It's a Fendt. Yes. That'll be one of Didier's, our local farmer. Well, it's got a bit noisy in a minute when he comes past, I bet. Yeah, you probably hear it already. There he is, there he goes. That was one of Didier's sons, that was. They were driving tractors around here when they were like 8 years old. I thought to myself, it's a bit dangerous. Just changing the camera, changing arms, because I was aching a bit. So yeah, okay, so the US was 71.5, Canada is 65.35, Mexico is 38.22. So if you want to have a cheap, if you want to live cheaply, move to Mexico, all right, or Pakistan, something like that, because there's going to be a darn sight cheaper for you. And now how to put it, gentrification in Mexico has been causing a bit of, how to put it, disruption. Yeah, they're not happy. Because Americans have been going over there, working in Mexico, not registering, and there's been a lot of protests about it. In fact, quite violent protests as well, because they feel that people are taking the mick out of them. You know, we've got all these tariffs and the way people have been treated at the border in the United States, you know, between the United States and Mexico, and they've been treated like shit, haven't they? Let's be honest, you know. And so they've got a lot of grievance. So when they find American citizens working and living very, very cheaply in Mexico and not paying any taxes in Mexico, they're getting pissed off. I kind of think that's understandable, you say. Yeah. Well, I know what I'm going to get. What about all those Mexicans coming over the United States not paying their taxes? If they're documented, they're paying their taxes. and most farms will only use documented workers because the fines are immense, and the criminal convictions can apply as well. So, oh God, another tractor's coming. It's John Deere this time. Probably built in Mexico. So, yeah, and in China, food price inflation is 34.18%. That's 53.1% less than the United States. Now, you could argue some of this is down to red tape, and it is. Some of it is, but a lot of it's going to be down to John Deere this time. And some of it's going to be down to just the fact that the cost of everything is more expensive. Obviously, wages are more expensive, and especially now since you can't get hold of your little Mexican workers anymore, Latinos and Cubans and whoever else work in the fields, Venezuelans or whoever anyway. So all the prices are going to go up because you're going to have to be paying more money for labour. That's kind of understandable if you deport everybody, right? You might think, oh, it's a black market, but they're paying taxes, these people are. They're paying taxes, and they might be being paid less money, but for them, their cost of living, you see, if they could send the money back to Mexico, was a lot lower. So for them, it makes perfect sense. They're quite happy at that, right? And they don't half work, I mean, I can't imagine a Westerner working as hard on these fields as a Latino, it just doesn't happen, does it? These people graft. Now, when in the UK, we had people work in the farms in Norfolk, where I'm from, and some of them people would be from Romania and what have you, and oh my God, they worked like a video, they did. So here goes another one. They are busy today. What are they doing? Are they building? Oh, I know what they're building. Yeah, they're building a bunker. Since Donald Trump has been moving the submarines about Russia, I reckon they're building a bunker. No, I'm joking. Well, yeah. The thing is, you see, with all this going on, with all these prices, all this extra taxes, the tariffs, which are all coming into play just recently. I know they've been, like for instance, Mexico's, they've been postponed again. He's tacoed again. It sounds like he was probably going to do the same with Canada if he hasn't already done so. And but I think actually Canada told him to do one. So what I heard anyway yesterday. Now the thing is, you see, with all these prices going up because of the cost of inputs, the cost of buying the machinery, it's not just people, is it? Not just seed and feed and fertilise and stuff like that. It's the cost of actually acquiring the money as well. You see, with inflation, everything becomes more expensive. Your borrowing power is much reduced. And, these farmers are debt. They have a shitload of debt. They really do. These tractors aren't cheap. And they buy it on the never, they do. Now, I don't know what it's like in the United States, but in the EU, for European Union members, which doesn't include the United Kingdom anymore, they were getting interest-free credit via the European Union. The farmers here are actually looked after. They might grumble and moan a lot and protest a lot, but as a whole, they are some of the best looked after farmers out there. They really are. They've got a lot of protections in place to protect the farmers. Now, clearly, it doesn't obviously do much good for other countries that want to benefit from European markets like the United States. And they got another one. That was Didier, that was. He's the local farmer here, so he's probably doing that for his land. Yeah, so anyway, now in the United States, with inflation at 2.67%, that went up last month. It's supposed to be going down under Donald Trump, isn't it? But it's not, it's going up. And these tariffs are... And the threat of the tariffs isn't just the tariff itself, it's the not knowing. It's not knowing what's going on. You see, business relies on stability. It does. It relies on just stability. And when you got, like, for instance, the cost of everything going up, people spending less money because they don't know what's around the corner, or what's it's going to cost them to live, they spend less money. So you sell less. When you sell less, it increases costs of everything yet again, because they have to spread the cost. Now, the price of eggs, for instance. Right, let's get into the eggs. The price of eggs. Now, they are reasonably pricey in Canada as well, from what I can see, but not as pricey as the United States. The cheapest box of large eggs I could see in the United States, for instance, was around $6, right? And that was the cheapest. Go up this way. Let's go up this way. We're going to go up the Shaman here. Right, that one there. So that was around $6. Canada was around for the box of large eggs, dozen large eggs. Well, that's quite a bit cheaper actually. Around $4, $4 to $5 US. Not Canadian, obviously a bit more than that, but it's cheaper anyway because it's obviously the Canadian dollars. Yeah, that's right. So anyway, the Canada's paying a little bit less for their eggs. Now, give you a little idea. Well, we pay for eggs now. A similar box of eggs, although they're sold generally by the 10, well, actually you do get by a dozen as well, but generally they sell them in tens, decimals. And oh crikey, was the last box I bought was around €2.67. Yeah, €2.67 was the last box of eggs I bought from the supermarket. But we've been buying a lot recently from the local farms, biofarm, and we're buying 30 eggs for €4. Or if you want the rejects, which just means they're different sizes, you should get them for €2 for 30 eggs. So that's ridiculously cheap, and they're free range eggs, so bio eggs, So now for Canada, regarding the egg prices and what have you, that's neither here nor there really, because it's all relative to what you earn as well. You've got to remember that, your medium and what you. But it's not just eggs, is it? It's the cost of meat. The cost of beef in the US has increased considerably. It's around $10 a pound at the moment for beef, and that varies from place to place, obviously, and that's about a 10% increase, and that's going up and up and up and up and up. You see, it's all down to input costs and labour costs. Remember, these tariffs are only really just started coming in, haven't they? He keeps kicking the can down the road, doesn't he? Keep tacoing, does Donald Trump. Now, in Canada, for instance, the beef farming has suffered. It has over the last few years, and it really has. And there's been a marked reduction in beef farmers in Canada over the years. Now, since Mark Carney, the Prime Minister, has taken office, as he's voted in, the Liberal Party, there has been a different, how to put this, a different attitude towards beef farming. Now, Heath MacDonald had a farm. Heath MacDonald had a farm. Yo. Yeah, okay, I won't do that again. So anyway, Heath MacDonald, after he asked his wife's permission whether or not he could come back into office, put his head on the block again. He asked his wife's permission. He knows where his bread's buttered, doesn't he? So anyway, he said that we're going to take and the policy around farming is going to be an economic policy. Now, this is a bit of a necessity for Canada, really, because obviously we would love everything to be environmental based. We really would. And I, as an environmentalist myself, I would most certainly would appreciate that. But I understand, I'm pragmatic like that, I understand that Canada's going to have to do what they need to do to keep the country afloat while Donald Trump keeps threatening it. In more ways than one. Obviously the 51st state argument and that stuff like that is bloody ridiculous. The man's a feckin' idiot, he really is. Anyway, he knows how to piss people off, doesn't he? All that's happened is the Canadians have dug in. And I don't blame him. I don't blame you at all. Why wouldn't you? You know, if you are a strong individual, someone who loves your country, believes in your country, proud of your country and the people, well, you're going to stand firm, aren't you? You're going to hold fast and, you know, and stick up for what is right. Now, luckily for Canada, since all this has been going on, because, you know, Donald Trump has been attacking everyone, hasn't he? Including Australia. Well, the Australian government has announced that they're going to be opening their markets to beef. Well, this could be a real win for Canada. It really could, because they've got a much better relationship with Australia. Actually, I think everybody have actually since this has been going on, because everybody, including the European Union, including the UK, everyone, since Donald Trump has been in power, has, well, if anything, it is, what would be the right phrase, I suppose? Well, everyone's more grounded now in their approach to tackling Donald Trump. They're more in harmony. Every single leader realises, unless you're an idiot that is, that Donald Trump is an anomaly. He's a rogue player. And he ain't to be trusted. There ain't no deal to have with Donald Trump. I've said it before, I'm going to say it again and again and again. There's no deal to be had with Donald Trump. While he's in charge, and Howard Lutnick or Nutlick or Scott Bessent, none of them people are worth a sight. They really aren't. You can't do business with these people because there's no business to be had. Right, that's a nice view, isn't it? Can you see all the dust over there? That's where all the soil's going. That is Didier's farm, that is there. So it's obviously he's doing something on his farm and shitload of soil. I don't know what. He's digging a lot of clay up as well, so maybe he's lining. That'll be blue clay though, won't be the yellow clay. I was wondering if he's doing another reservoir or something. Maybe, I don't know. Now, so it's very important for us all really to embrace world markets. To actually alleviate the losses from the United States, because at the end of the day we were trading with them, and you'll carry on trading with the United States. You know, I know that you're boycotting in Canada, for instance, are boycotting products, US products, and carry on doing that. You know, it really pokes them in the eye. They hate it. They absolutely hate that. So just keep that up. But the fact is, though, with all this going on, the Canadians are going to benefit big time. I was losing my train of thought now. But the fact of the matter is, what Heath MacDonald was saying is that he was also saying they want to reduce red tape. Now, red tape is a massive problem. It's a massive problem on imports. You see, imports into Canada, but also by reducing your red tape in Canada, you will open markets outside of Canada. And considering that Canada is a resource industry, isn't it? You've got so many resources that you could sell, as well as obviously using them for your own purposes as well, building houses, etc., and obviously farming. You know, obviously you produce, like I say, you produce all that potash, don't you? But there are other, inputs for farming you need as well, like for instance, nitrogen and stuff like that. I don't know if you produce nitrogen even in Canada. You possibly do. But you've got to remember about world markets. And when Russia invaded Ukraine, that caused a huge amount of problems regarding nitrogen and other input chemicals, used fertilisers and what have you, because a lot of them were produced in eastern Ukraine and Russia. And then the sanctions went on Russia, caused world shortages. We saw it with the gas as well, didn't we? Relatively quickly. And prices went up quite rapidly. The cost of oil, for instance, cooking oil, went up through the roof. Like sunflower oil, for instance, that was being grown in or supplied by Russia and Ukraine. People didn't realise that Ukraine was considered as the world's breadbasket. Well, Canada's got that ability to be its own breadbasket. It has everything it needs. It can feed its own people. You see, the thing we need to understand and realise is that a lot of the food that is produced is exported and then you import sometimes the same food. which makes little or no sense. So looking after your own market first, so you get less land miles, obviously environmentally it'd be a lot better. But it also, with all this, with tariffs going on, you're exporting stuff into the United States, so it could stay in Canada and reduce the prices at the shelf. Your food inflation could be reduced because you do produce beef, and you were doing, you were selling, meat exports, do meat exports, weren't you, or still are, in Canada. So it makes sense to maybe eat it yourselves, make a burger or something. I don't know, some ground beef pates, whatever you want to do. But I think personally, when I look at what's going on, Mexico, Canada, which both border the United States. I keep saying United States of America, and I get criticised when I say America. I think people consider it as an insult. And sometimes what do I call Americans? Do I call them Americans if, for instance, do I call them US's? I don't know. I'm learning all this shit, all the time, and I do find it interesting. But anyway, that's kind of my take on it. I've probably gone into too much detail on a lot of this stuff, I have to admit, and the video's probably too long. But I think this protectionism is going to be coming to an end regarding Canada, Mexico. I think they're going to open their markets to other countries other than the United States. Well, they've already started, haven't they? There's negotiations been ongoing with the European Union. I'm open to it. I don't believe you could get much complaint here. You will from the farmers, because they complain about absolutely everything, and they'll protest as well about absolutely everything, because that's what they do. We actually have a season. We have, in the United States they've got their hurricane season. Well, here we have our strike season, our strike season or protest season. They all get together. Oh, it's that time of year. Okay, what should we strike about this? What should we protest about this time? I have to admit, the French people know how to protest. They really do. So they seem to do all right to me. Our farmers seem to be pretty wealthy, to be fair. You wouldn't think it'd look at them. They look like typical you think they've got onions around their neck, but they always got new vehicles, new this, new that. They must be paying the debt somehow, mustn't they? So anyway, it's time for me to go, so I'm going to say toodaloo now. I'd like to know what your thoughts are, because I do go through the comments, which you might have noticed. But I do find it really interesting, and I've been learning a lot actually from the comments themselves. I'm just Joe Blogs, all right? I'm just Joe Blogs. I'm just a woodworker working in France from my home, which is just over there. You can probably see it through the trees. And just doing what I can to make a living. And then obviously doing a bit of YouTube as well, because I find it interesting. I've got my Woodworking Channel as well, if you want to check that out. I have a bit of fun on there, I do. I hope you do too. And we go on the politics side of things. I think in the last few years, actually since Brexit, I've taken an interest in it. And when I see all this stuff going on regarding Canada, the United States, Mexico, I find it interesting, but also sad at the same time. Does it make any sense? So I wish we could all just get on. I really do. And obviously with what's going on in Ukraine, I don't generally talk about wars and stuff, unless it's something I want to say. But I try to keep away from that if I can. But politics and economics and how things are affected, I do find interesting, and I hope you find my videos interesting as well. But please boot the like button and maybe subscribe to the channel, little bell icon, because then you get a warm fuzzy feeling in your pocket every time I upload another video. And I know you're a bit excited about that, yeah? And do you know what I ain't said today? No, I haven't said anything about Donald Trump regarding a derogatory comment about Donald Trump, the fact that he's orange and he smells bad. People seem to keep a distance from him, that they do, unless they want to suckle his old chocolate starfish. Oh, what aroma that is, oh crikey. But you know how it goes. Anyway, if you want a sport channel, you can do it on Patreon or buy us a coffee. There's super thanks and stuff like that as well. And I couldn't do the channel without your support. I just couldn't, you know, 'cause in the day, like anybody, I'll get criticised for this, I know. Don't worry about the money. No, it's about survival. It's about being able to continue, because I'd have to, I spend a lot of time doing this. You know, it's all the research and it's all the, you know, checking things out. Obviously, it's not just making the videos. No. Not at all. Anyway, links down below if you're interested. We're also doing a rewilding, okay? Now, we are planting a load of trees at our property, and basically it's trying to do for the birds and the bees and stuff like that, you see. So we're creating habitats. Now, we've planted around 650 odd trees as of this year, beginning of this year, and we're going to plant over 1,000 trees, probably 1,000 to 1,500 trees on 2 hectares of land. We don't want to overplant it. We want to make sure that we can actually create the habitats required. Like, for instance, having some bush growth, having a variety of different trees. Obviously, you know, the usual native trees like the chestnuts, the oaks and stuff like that, you know. All the, a lot of the willows we're doing as well, because the bees love them early in the year. They go mad over them with little flowers on the catkins. But we're also trying to introduce other trees as well. There's also native here in France, but there aren't many of them about here. You know? I'm trying to find some sugar maple, and I'm trying to find red maple. I would love to plant a load of that, you know, since I've been talking a lot about Canada and what have you. And I think it would look fantastic anyway, because obviously in the autumn, what have you, the red leaves are gorgeous. So the only thing is, I'm struggling to find any. All right, I need to look at some of the nursery sites. Maybe I'll get one delivered instead of actually looking locally. But you know, maybe someone will send me some seeds or something. You're not supposed to, so don't say what they are. Here in France. Anyway, links down below anyway. So anyway, have a lovely day, and it is a beautiful day today. It really is. You know, I'm quite happy living here. You know, I wonder why. Yeah. Apart from there's a lot of tractor activity today, but never mind. It's rural France after all.